Guten Morgen. This is the best I could do. Anyway, so today I will talk about, this is Patrick from OneSky. Today I will talk about how to win global gamers with smart localization. And I know Newshu has done a really good job on explaining the global gaming market, so it's now to get into how to do it well. So a bit background for me, I'm doing marketing at OneSky, so you can feel free to follow my Twitter or email me about anything about global. So, and take a step back to explain more about OneSky. OneSky is a localization company, mainly for games, but we also do translation services for mobile apps and also website. We have a translation management system to a cloud platform so that you can manage your translation easily. And we also offer professional translations for more than 40 languages. So these are the games that we help to go global. We like Flopmy from here, Chris Up and Bandai Namco and so on. We also have some Chinese game like Tap of Fun is from China. So today I will go through three things. The first thing is like why you have to localize your game. The second thing is the how question, how to localize your game. And the third one is not just how to do it, but how to do it in a smart way. We suggest a strategy called minimal viable localization, MVL, that we'll explain it later. So the first question is why you have to localize your game after all. But this answer is really simple because your gamers are global. Just like Newshu and also other data companies like App&E has mentioned, the global mobile gaming market is huge. So I just copy the data from Newshu. I'm not sure it's updated yet. So the most updated one you have to go for Enders. So right now the numbers is 27 billion over the world. It's really big. I wonder how much I can earn from my life. And 80% of them is outside Europe. So it's like from China, APAC, also Latin America. More importantly, actually 71% of these regions are not speaking English in their first language. Just like me, my mother tongue is Chinese and Cantonese. Most of the big spenders in the market does not speak English at all. So you may say, oh, although my mother tongue is not in it's not in English, but I do read English, right? So what's the point of localization? Localization is a way to reach and engage global gamers in the most natural way, their native languages. So simply your game is understandable by them is not enough. It's like Menendez once said, if you talk to a man in a language that he understands, it only goes to his brain. But if you speak to them in their language, that goes to their heart. You really win their heart with their own language. So this is one of our clients in the past, Chris Up. No, currently they also are our client. Chris Up, we help them to translate into 5 languages, and in Portuguese, Spanish, French, and Italian, and so on. And in 7 months, we help them gain 20 million users. So that's why local translation or available in your gamers' and language is really important to engage them and make them feel like natural to play your game. So I have explained why you have to localize your game. The second question is how to localize your game. So in general, we will suggest you to localize your game in 5 steps. The first step, I will go through them one by one. The first step is planning, how to plan your localization campaign. The second step is you have to get your game ready. We will go through something like internationalization. The third step is to translation or localization. You have to translate your content. The fourth step is test drive. And the final step is to launch your game. The first step is planning. It turns out it's like deciding what languages you wish to localize into. There are some questions that you have to consider. One is for your target market, and one is for your current users. For the target markets, you have to understand, what's the size of your target markets, and what do your target markets really speak. So for these questions, I think Newshu or App&E or many gaming consultancy can help your job. And the second question is related to current users. You have to study where are your users coming from and what language do they speak. So you have to go into your analytics and like Google Analytics or any attribution models. I'm like promoting other companies, so I stop here. And this is something like the top 10 languages we've been helping with from our clients or from our experience. So in Asia and Russia, we recommend our clients to localize into Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Russian. In Europe, French, German, Portuguese, and Spanish. Actually, Italian should become next to the 4 languages. In South America, we suggest our clients to localize into Brazilian, Portuguese, and Latin America Spanish. So you may think, oh, it's so intuitive. You go to China, then you go localize into Chinese, right? It's so simple, but actually, some languages could be tricky. Just take Chinese example. Do anybody know that actually there are 2 characters in Chinese? Yeah. And many spoken dialect in China. Yeah. So basically, just take Chinese example. In China, only China will write in simplified Chinese, but in Taiwan and in Hong Kong, they read traditional Chinese. And they speak different dialects well. In China, they speak Mandarin, but in Hong Kong, people speak mostly in Cantonese. They are very different language when it comes to play. So if you don't plan your language pretty well, actually you could be the consequence could be serious. Just take Nintendo example. Like, I'm not talking about Pokemon Go, but the Pokemon official game, the Pokemon game. So Nintendo this year they released official translation. They unified the whole Chinese speaking regions into one translation version that follows the Chinese Mandarin pronunciation and also the mainland China fashion. So it raised so much reaction from gamers in Hong Kong and Taiwan because it's so unnatural to their own experience. Because in Hong Kong they speak in Cantonese, so the pronunciation doesn't match for their native experience. So there is some reaction against the unified translations. So there are petition online. There are meme telling that, "Oh, give me my Pikachu back" in Hong Kong Cantonese, and there is even a protest in Hong Kong against the Japanese embassy. So they say, oh, we defend the Hong Kong translation. I don't want the Chinese translation. Give him back by Pikachu. And they they give this, the letter to the ambassador in Japan. So it's a pretty serious thing. And Nintendo has to do another thing afterwards to take care of the issue. So after you decide your translations or languages, you have to get your game localization ready. What I mean by localization ready is you have to make sure your infrastructure is ready for translation. In the industry, we call a step called internationalisation. It means to isolate your string from your source code. You make sure it helps to facilitate the translation process. Otherwise, if your string and the source code are mixed together, you can't do any translation. It will become a mess. So this is more technical side. So I think if you guys just search the term internationalization online, or you just ask us, we can share a lot of more technical guide how to do it well, through different platforms from Unity, Unreal to Apple, Android to iOS. When your game is ready for translation, you make your source code ready, and then you can start to translate your content. Then the steps are pretty straightforward. You hire translators or use vendors, and OneSky is obviously one of the vendors you can think of. And the better step is before sending the original content to translate to your vendors, you also come with the reference materials. Reference materials are some contextual information about your content, like, oh, what's your characters coming from, what's the context of your weapons, and and to very specific results like, oh, this is the button shown on the screen of these. So these could help your translators a better job to translate your content in a more higher professional way. And we recommend you to, when doing the translation process, we recommend you to use a translation management system, we call it TMS, to optimize the whole process. The TMS will do a few things. The first thing is it integrates with your game engines. So throughout your game development process, you can just export your content to the TMS, and on the TMS you can manage the whole translation processes. And a TMS will also have some QA features that can enhance the localization quality. And the third thing is because everything is automated, so you minimize the manual cost to maintain your localization, and you can focus on doing your game and building your game to be a better one. Oops. And once your translation are ready, you should go to test drive your localization. And you may think, oh, if my translators are doing a good job, why I have to test my translations? Actually, some common problems may involve during the translation process. The first thing is, if you don't do your reference material well, sometimes the translation maybe does not fit the context very well. And just like this one, I think it's a very classic example from Zelda in 1980s. And sometimes, if you don't do your internationalization well, translation may be missed off in the whole workflow because you didn't isolate the string from your source code. And the third thing is the translation may not fit your user interface pretty well, like German. German is usually 150% longer than English phrases, so it may break your bubble box if you don't take care of it very well. So you have to test drive your localization before launching. And once all the translation are ready and it's tested, you can launch your localizations. But don't forget to track your results, like in terms of downloads and MAU, etc. And you learn from your results and try to scale up your localization efforts. So this is the whole localization process from planning, building the infrastructure, translation, testing, and launching. This is the common workflow no matter what. But the third thing is, how do you do it in a smart way? So you may ask, oh, how smart should I be? There are three benefits if we develop a strategy called minimal viable localization, just like minimal viable product in product development world. There are three benefits from that. So the first thing is you can minimize your cost and time while you can grow your game globally. The second thing is you can test your market potentials before a full launch. The third thing is the whole process is iterative. You can improve and optimize continuously. So the key thing here is the minimal viable. So when you think about localization, we suggest you to look at your funnel. So what's your most troubling stage? Like for most of us at the first beginning, it would be acquisition. So you have to deal with the acquisition stuff. So the minimum viable acquisition would be those promotional stuff, like your product listing, your app store pages, your app store description, and your ASO or your website telling about what your game is. So if you just want to tackle the acquisition part, then you can first think of just translating the app store page X minimum. Just saying is you could think in this way. And when you prove the localization is successful, you see a lot of traction throughout your app store or channel or your acquisition channels, then you can scale up to, okay, this market works. Then we scale up to engagement. We start to localize the whole in-game assets. We first come up with, we first translate the text, maybe the video, audio later, or maybe we implement some local culturalized, localized feature in the legs up. So, and when it still keep going out, and then you keep scaling up to retention. Then I localize my forum, I localize my community, I host localized events in the target markets. So in this way, you can manage your cost to minimal while you can still work in the target market, and you keep doing it, just iterate and grow. So it's just like a cycle that is data-driven, and you won't lose so much money on localization because localization could be a big spending. So here are some takeaways. The first takeaway is your gamers are global, so your game should be too. The second thing is when you localize your game, you can use MVL to localize in a smart way. And the third thing is if you don't treat your language seriously, beware of protests coming up soon. So yeah, and this is the end of my presentation. And actually, we OneSky have a lot of educational access or content on how to localize your stuff in a more effective way. So this is you can check out our ebook, like the beginner's guide to mobile localization. Yeah, here's the QR code, and here's the shortening. Please download it and subscribe to our newsletter if you want. And I'm welcome to any questions. Thank you.
So, do you have any questions? Am I on? Yeah. Any questions, Patrick? Oh, there's one there. It's in the front. Where's our roving mic? All right.
You weren't expecting it.
No, it's good. No, I was thinking of one. That's good. So you can go for it. Roving mic's coming. you get a chance to phrase it just right. So it's going to be over here,
over there. These are my colleagues.
They might ask you something.
Yeah.
Hello. You talk a lot about translating games in every way, and then you talked about doing it in incremental ways, localization, and you said later you can change the in-game assets, the in-app purchases, I'm guessing. Do you do that as well, or is like also the pricing of those things around the world, because that changes?
Yeah, what a pity that right now we still just do translation. So for those culturalization, I think you have to look for other partners, but we do have a partner network. We can recommend which partner you can do if you want to go deep localization to culturalize or to have in-game different things in your game in different places. Right now we are focusing on TMS, a platform that can automate your translation process, and also our professional translation services. But we will, like, for sure, maybe in the future we can do something, but it's not what we can do for now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any more questions? I have one quick question. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So I was going to ask, which you might have gone through, so I was scooting backwards and forwards, but at what stage in the game kind of development should you be talking about kind of localization or internationalisation? Like, is it you finish your game and now you've got a couple of weeks, or should you be building that more into the kind of design process from several months out?
Sure. For internationalization, I would think by day one you should build it on its own, because we've seen so many games that they don't intended to go global at first, so their infrastructure is not built for global markets. But when they start to think about, oh, I have to go globalize, they have to treat a lot of the code inside. So it's tons of work there. So for now, no matter what you think about domestic market or global markets, have to deal with build a platform or infrastructure that enables you to go global later on. Yeah, because it will be a headache if you don't do that. But but in terms of global markets, it will really depends on the strategy of the games. So like I would suggest you just go small first, like targeting one market, and if proven successful, then you just go bigger. Okay. But
No, brilliant, good answer. Thank you very much. So big round of applause to Patrick. Yeah. Thank you very much. Is that yours? No? Yeah. You might want to take that. That's fine. We had a chance to give away an apple.